Thank you for joining me. My name's Sarah Bartholomeusz. I'm the principal of law firm Legal, and we work with health practices across Australia to help them stay legally compliant, protected, and confident as the regulatory landscape evolves. I'm really looking forward to taking you through this topic because it's not only timely, it's essential for every legal practice. I wanted to start the session by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we all gather on today. And one of the beautiful things about having a webinar like this is we do come from different areas of Australia and with different traditional custodians. So I'm lucky enough to be on Kaurna land today, and I pay my respects to elders past and present, and I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today. This is my disclaimer. As a lawyer, you'd be disappointed if I didn't we'll start with a disclaimer, I assume, but really this presentation is for general guidance only, and legal advice should be taken in relation to specific actions on specific issues. For those of you that I haven't met, my name's Sarah Bartholomeusz. As I said at the start, I'm an author. I've written this book, Growing a Medical Practice from Frustration to a High Performance Business. We find that it translates to allied health very well as well. There's a lot of similarities, as you know, between highly regulated industries in the medical and health field. So I wrote that book after starting Legal and really starting to work almost exclusively in the medical and health fields. And one of the reasons we do that is we absolutely love helping people who help people. We feel like we're contributing to, making the world a better place. And not a lot of lawyers can say that. I also come from a medical family, so it's very close to home. One of my cousins on my mum's side is a psychologist. She runs a fairly big practice in Geelong with multiple psychologists. And then on my dad's side, actually noticed yesterday on my social media that one of my cousin's kids has become a registered psychologist this week too. So, the medical and allied side of my family just continues to grow, which I'm very proud of, and very proud to be a part of protecting people's practices, because I believe that protects the health systems for everybody in Australia, including everyone on the call. So that's my why. All right, why does this topic matter to you? That's probably more interesting to you. Coming up, actually, next week, as we're recording this, on the 1st of December, the Psychology Board is replacing the Code of Ethics with its own code of conduct. So I'm sure many of you on this call are aware of this because you've probably been getting spammed with it by your professional associations and probably even by the board. It's more than just a name change. It's moving from what was an aspirational ethical framework to an enforceable regulatory code. And that means expectations are clearer from the board to psychologists, and also people are going to start coming in late. This is my new system, figuring it out. So with clearer expectations, accountability really does increase. And it means that all psychologists need to be thinking about their documentation, processes, and everyday practices so they align to this code. In other words, this affects your practices, policies, how you obtain consent, how you document your therapies, how you manage your boundaries, cultural safety, records, and complaints. So starting now really means you'll be into this change with the confidence instead of rushing to be there at the last minute. So what exactly is changing? Let me be clear about this. This code is enforceable. So that's the big change. Consent is no longer a one-off. It really becomes an ongoing process as part of your practice. Cultural safety needs to be embedded as a core professional requirement. Record-keeping expectations are more detailed and operational, and the code aligns with updated professional competencies, which means supervision and registrar support also need to reflect these standards. The overarching theme of these changes is clarity, structure, and accountability in a way that strengthens safety and trust in the profession. So I'm going to go through each of the elements in more detail now, with starting with informed consent, because under the new code, consent isn't something that we can ask for once and file it away. It becomes a continuous and traceable process. Whenever there's a material change, whether that's in the treatment approach, telehealth use, physical contact, data handling, or even financial arrangements, consent needs to be revisited and documented. So consent needs to be revisited or documented when those things change. This ensures clients understand what they're engaging in, and it protects both the practitioner and the client if questions ever arise. Cultural safety is the next aspect, and it's no longer an optional value, it's mandated, and it's an ongoing responsibility for psychologists. Psychologists are expected to actively reflect on systemic bias, build genuine partnership with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, and document cultural learning and development. A cultural safety statement won't be enough on its own. The expectation is that practices demonstrate lived commitment and continuous improvement. This is a positive shift, strengthening equity, respect, and psychological safety for all clients. Records management is our next one. So record keeping requirements are also tightening under the new code. The code expects clear, factual, respectful notes, secure storage with restricted access, appropriate closure and transfer procedures, and audit trails for electronic records. Strong, consistent documentation will protect your clients first and also becomes your strongest defence in the event of complaints, investigations, or insurance claims. All right. So boundaries and professional conduct. We see strengthened expectations around maintaining professional boundaries. This includes careful handling of dual relationships, clear processes when care is disrupted, and explicit consent for any physical consent, every single time in writing. Financial consent is now also part of your ethical practice. Clients must know fees, rebates, cancellation policies, and any third-party involvement before therapy begins. Transparency here builds trust and avoids misunderstandings. Ethical and legal considerations. So this is my area, of course. The code intertwines ethical principles with legal obligations. Ethically, psychologists must act transparently, maintaining professional boundaries, providing cultural responsive care, and honouring autonomy through ongoing consent. Legally, you must comply with APRA and the board's expectations, privacy legislation, data breach processes, and defensible documentation standards. Think of this code as a strong structural support, not a hurdle that reinforces quality and trust in your practice. I want to go through a case study of a client we worked with recently with you. So this was a psychologist based in South Australia They are a director and a psychologist, so they truly understood both sides, so the management side, but also the clinical side of how important compliance is for the practice. From the practice to the practitioners, we know now from listening to me, but also all the other materials I'm sure you're getting, that this code is going to affect everybody. So with this particular client, we prepared a services agreement with the psychologists along with a new privacy policy, and the services agreement can really help limit your liability if you're running a serviced office of practitioners. And the privacy policy with the new privacy changes was critical as well. So their business now and the psychologists are legally compliant, and it highlights how important it is for everybody to be protected prior to disputes occurring, which is what we really are in business to do, to try and protect businesses in health and medical, to make sure that if those disputes do happen, there's a clear way to resolve them. So practically, we're kind of coming through, what does this actually mean for your practice? Well, you need to be reviewing your intake and consent forms, updating your privacy policy, refining any supervision agreements you have if you have registrars in your practice, establishing cultural safety practices and documentation, and considering whether your website content might need updating for transparency as well. It's not about completely rebuilding your practice. It's about strengthening the systems that you already rely on, because these changes aren't going to hopefully radically change the way you practice. It's more about tweaking and refining what already exists. We have a lot of medical practice clients, so I thought it was worth looking at for our clients who have psychologists who work from their rooms, or medical practices who have psychologists work from their rooms. What does this new code mean for you? And for practices that engage psychologists as independent practitioner, the legal position is similar. If it's a medical practice, you're not liable for the new psychologist's compliance or for that independent psychologist's compliance with the new code. However, the risk that exists for medical practices that host psychologists, and there's a lot because it's a highly valued allied health profession, obviously, and it's also one that's fairly easy for medical practices to have rent, because, you know, if you think about a physio, they need a bed. Psychologists generally just need a very private place to be able to speak to people, rather than needing additional equipment, I suppose. So where something could go wrong, the key risk really is reputation. So if something goes wrong, a privacy breach, a complaint, or an issue with consent, it's possible that a medical practice will be brought into any litigation or any issues that arrive, which then creates that key risk as a reputational risk. And the public then will associate the psychologist with your medical practice if that's the way you're structured. So even without legal liability, there is still a shared reputational risk, which is why it's important to confirm, as a medical practice, the independent psychologists have their own privacy policies, that they have consent forms, cultural safety statements. So that's why we recommend confirming that independent psychologists have their own privacy policies, which they need, and all independent practitioners need their own independent privacy policies anyway, their own consent forms, cultural safety statements and record keeping systems that meet the new requirements. You don't need to do the work for them. We have some practice managers freaking out that they're the ones who are going to have to create all this documentation, but you do need to feel confident that the practitioners operating under your roof and with your branding potentially are compliant and are aligned with these new standards. This protects your practice's brand and also can help avoid complications down the track. So another risk I saw was psychologists that rent rooms from psychology practices. So often psychologists run this similar process where they rent rooms to psychologists and run a service entity. So without having people as employees, they have independent practitioners. And so in this scenario, you're probably happy to hear that the service practice isn't responsible for ensuring the psychologist complies with the new code either, because the psychologist operates their own business from your rooms. However, again, we do recommend putting a simple communication or notification in place just to make sure that it's clear that the psychologist is responsible for their own compliance, their documentation, their privacy policies, and their consent processes, because under this new code, they are becoming a lot more robust. And we know that they may need some time to get these in place. This protects both sides by preventing assumptions or misunderstandings. You don't need to take on the responsibility, as I said, for the medical practice, but you can set expectations through sending a short email. Your room license agreement might cover this, or a general reminder, just so everyone is aware of their responsibilities under the new code. And I do wonder if you have been getting lots of emails about this, and we find this with our Law Society emails, you know, that we do get lots of those emails, and it's really only very close to the time that things are being implemented that people really sit up and really take notice that they need to get things in place before the go live date. So the benefits of compliance, of course, you know, we always recommend engaging with regulators if it comes to that early and getting things in place before that happens. But when practices embrace these changes early, we do see several benefits emerging. We know that clients feel safer and more informed, and particularly those who are sophisticated and aware of these changes. Your practice's reputation strengthens because that trust increases. Your legal and regulatory risk decreases, which is something, as you can tell from coming today, I'm very passionate about. And you demonstrate leadership in ethical healthcare practice. And that's very important for psychologists. We've found that generally psychologists are very risk aware and that they want to do the right thing. And that's one reason we love working with you all so much. But compliance nowadays, it isn't just a box ticking exercise. It's something that is kind of forward thinking. It helps to build trust and it protects relationships, which as psychologists, you know, are absolutely critical in business, in life, and in success, whatever that looks like for you. So here's the key takeaways for this webinar. The new code is going to be enforceable, so it really does require preparation. Secondly, the areas to prioritize are consent, cultural safety, record keeping, and your complaints processes. Finally, thirdly, begin now. So the transition is smooth, structured, and stress-free. You're not worrying about it going into the Christmas holidays. So these next steps are fairly simple, I hope, but very powerful for you to take. Review your documents. Number one, I'm a lawyer. You're not surprised by this. Of course, that was going to be my number one takeaway. Plan how you'll re-consent clients. Have a think about it. Don't be dealing with it on the 1st of December. Embed cultural safety in policies and in practice. Strengthen your record-keeping systems. Ensure your complaint process is clear and transparent. If you need support, reach out for expert guidance. Small and steady improvements are going to set you beautifully up for next month, December, and beyond, of course. Recommended next steps for us. I wanted to let you know how we've been working with psychologists in relation to this big change. We've been working with psychologists to update the terms of service with their clients to be compliant with the new code. We've been updating fee disclosure documents as well to make sure that they are compliant as well. We've been updating privacy policies because the Privacy Act changed recently. So we've been doing that in conjunction with changes in relation to the code as well. We've also been looking at people's consent forms and updating those. And we're offering today a complimentary call with Daniela. Oh, what is happening here? I'm clicking on the link to make sure it's live, to be able to discuss where your practice is at in relation to these documents, and for us to learn more about your practice, which we always love to do as well. And I've seen some people on this call who just have absolutely loved working with, so I'm very happy to see you here. We have this as my questions. I want to put that link in the chat for you so that you can book a call with Daniela if that is something you'd like to do. Here you go. So that's there for you. And my contact details are here, my booking link, my LinkedIn if you want to connect. It has been great to have you all here. We also have this Facebook group, which is one that we have doctors and allied health professionals in, and people ask questions from time to time. It's hopefully great value to people who join it, so feel free to join that as well if our 30-minute timer ticks over. Thank you all for making it in.